Jeremiah 50:33. Thus saith Yahweh of hosts, the children of Israel and the children of Judah were oppressed together, and all that took them captives held them fast. They refused to let them go. Their Redeemer is strong. Yahweh of hosts is his name. He shall thoroughly plead their cause, that they may give rest to the land and disquiet the inhabitants of Babylon. We're going to disquiet them with the truth, with the bringing out of who the 12 tribes of Israel actually are, while erasing and destroying their racist Edomite history. Call halal Yahweh Bashem Awashai Bahasham Rakah Kwadash. Double honors into the apostles, double honors into the elder bishops. Salutations to all our fellow laborers doing this work in truth and sincerity, risking their lives and their freedom to do so. Now more so than ever, the would-be judges that are to be set up according to the Bible, the 144,000, which are 12,000 men from the 12 tribes of Israel, which are to be the government, the world government, bringing the order of heaven, the laws of heaven, the laws of the Bible on earth as it is in heaven. That's what the Bible is talking about, setting up a new government, while Esau's trying to set up his own world order. All right, that's not the order that's going to go. He is going to fail. All right. And to the rest of the scattered elect that are scattered around the four corners of the earth, that be like unto the speckled birds, the Israelite foreigners among the heathen nations that have the appearance of the heathen nations. All Israelites are not going to look like this chief here, this Indian, this Native American chief. He's not even an African. All right. Okay. And to the few Akwaf that are listening and learning, to you, I say shalom. All right. Fact. The so-called natives of the Americas, the so-called natives of both South, Central, and North America, Canada, at once upon a time, they look mainly like what you look on the screen. This is a chief from Florida, from my people. All right. This is a chief from Florida. And his name was, let me see, it was Chief Satua, all right? And they're calling him the Moor with the Emerald Cluster, all right? And you see, you got 18th century here, some say 17th century, but it was actually the 1600s when he was encountered, all right? This statue, I'm not sure of the date at this point because they've given 3 different dates, but the time of the encounter of this man was, this image was created after, all right, with him wearing all his decorative stuff. All right, he was a Temecula Indian, Sadowa chief. All right, and it says this is the AI overview. The Moor with the Emerald Cluster is a famous 18th century. And then it says, according to a Facebook post, this is actual history. This thing is sitting in a museum. So how is it according to a? You see how they try to do here? Depicts a young man, likely depiction of a Temecula's chief. And it says the piece is known for its detailed craftsmanship, use of various materials, included painted wood, pearl wood, silver, gold, emerald. So clearly, this is why they came to the Americas. Because Cristobal Colon, aka Christopher Columbus, the gold of Euphrates that was brought over to build the ancient temples of the Israelites, Solomon's temple, the temple that he built for dedication of the Lord. All right, the gold came from here. Cristobal Colon came with Hebrew interpreters. All right, one of his name was Del Torres, and he was a Moor, just like this guy. All right, and so here it says according to Facebook posts. Down here, according to Facebook posts. All right. But when you go here, let's click to, it says, let's click over here now, because they also have them on Instagram. And that's where they gave you the image. Let's click back. And they give you another story on Instagram here. Right. And he's sitting in a museum. You can see the Edomite woman in the background. And this is the image that they used in the selling of slaves. They used Chief Satuaya, or Satu. I can't pronounce his name. I'm sorry. Satur Iwa. All right. It even sounds like a Hebrew name. Okay. But you can see the Edomites, this statue is sitting over in this. Oh, there it is. It says the chief Satuan tribe, a Temecula chiefdom centered at the mouth of St. John's River in Florida during the 16th century. His main village, also known as Satuaiwa, was located on the south bank of the river near the mouth. Now, so this man walked up wearing this sort of things and presenting food and stuff to the Edomites. They were, man, then you wonder why they came over here and they committed genocide and the stealing of the land. And Florida is some of the most expensive property on the planet, man. And Trump owns a lot of stuff in Florida. Okay? As a matter of fact, I'm going to play a video with some Edomites admitting this and talking about it while they're cracking jokes at the same time. All right? So let's pull that up.
Clearly being received in some ceremonial fashion. Now, what else? This is a Temecula Indian too. This is one of the most famous. This is called the Moor with the Emerald Cluster. This was made in the late 1600s or 1700s. And it's depicting an Indian chief from Florida from 1562. 63, 64. That's when these Indians were first encountered, Northeast Florida. Notice that. Gold teeth even. Come on. They was kings, people. We was kings. You know, Rick Ross was right when he said, I think it was him, said, you know, we've always liked the bling. We've always liked flashy, you know, stuff like that. That's in our DNA. We can't help it. You can't take that out of us. You know, this could be good evidence for that. That is exactly what a black person would dress up like in ancient America, you know? Flavor Flav.
Didn't you say you
clearly
see? So they're cracking jokes about it, but they're speaking the truth. All right, and you know, you got to understand all this racial categories that were created, these fraudulent pseudoscience, let's get that, was used to hide this, that these were actual Native Americans when you go back far enough. The reason that the so-called Hispanics and the so-called, you know, Hispanics and Native Americans look different today is because of this. You see how dark she was, this woman is. One of these very people that we're talking about. But they brought him over to do this. So look how light her daughter became as a result of it. And look how light her granddaughter or the grandbaby is. And but the seed of Israel is still among these people because of the men. All right. And this was a term called blanqueamiento, which means the whitening. Okay. And here it is. Blanqueamiento in Spanish, branqueamiento in Portuguese, both meaning whitening, was a social and political economic practice used by post-colonial countries in the Americas and Oceania to improve the race, all right, towards the supposed ideal of whiteness. The term of blanqueamiento is rooted in Latin America and used more or less synonymously with racial whitening. However, blanqueamiento can be considered in both symbolic and biological sense. Symbolically, blanqueamiento represents the ideology that emerged from legacies of European colonialism, described by Anibal Quijano's theory of colonial power, all right, which caters to white dominance in social hierarchies. And it says biologically, blanqueamiento is a process of whitening by marrying lighter-skinned individual to produce lighter-skinned offspring. And just because you're lighter skinned does not mean that you're not an Israelite because of the seed line. All right. The Bible is very clear. You're whatever your father is. And the crazy thing is with all this separation between the northern and the southern kingdom. Let's go back to the image larger. The separation is created the Bible is very clear that whatever, there's no such thing as mixed. Whatever the father is, that is what the child is. So if this man is a Spaniard, this child, a Spaniard by blood, an Edomite Spaniard, that is. Because you got to remember, for 1,000 years, Jake ruled Europe. All right. They ruled Portugal and Spain for 700 years. So the Moors that were over there, who looked like, let's go back, who looked like Temecula, they call him a Moor, they left offspring that looked like him. You see, the Israelites scattered among the heathen that have the appearance of the heathen. So the blanqueamiento didn't work, because and even all throughout South America, the Venezuelans and Hondurans and Panamanians are still dark as hell. You couldn't outbreed them. You couldn't do it. You just don't like to show them on TV down there. The favelas are full of people that if they didn't open their mouths to speak the broken Portuguese and Spanish, all right, the mixture of the Portuguese, the Spanish, and the English, you would never know that they weren't Judites from America. You would never know until they open their mouths, and I know quite a few of them being involved in that Portuguese, being involved with Brazilians for the last 20 years of my life, 20 plus years, doing Brazilian jiu-jitsu, listening to them speak, seeing them looking like this woman and can't speak a lick of English, all right? Way darker than me, okay? And the thing is that what they do is they don't really show them, on television a lot. They show you the ones that look like him. You can see the cursor, I'm circling him, or the ones that look like her. But before Esau came, they looked like the old woman. They looked like the chief here. So, throughout the Americas, and they were not Africans. They're not so-called black people. What they are Israelites, and they came from the east. These are the people that they're trying to tell you came across from Asia and came across the Bering Sea. Truth of the matter is they did come from Western Asia, but they came by way of ship. That's in 2nd Ezra, the 13th chapter, and around the 40th verse. Okay? And it reads, "Those are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoners out of their own land in the time of Hosea the king, whom Salmanasar the king of Assyria led away captive and carried them over the waters, so that they came into another land. But they took counsel among themselves that they should leave the multitude of the heathen and go forth into a further country where never mankind dwelt, that they may keep their statutes, which were never kept in their own land." The reason why they got kicked out of Samaria in the first place was for breaking the laws of the Lord. The northern kingdom went off first. All right. It says, "And they entered into the Euphrates," that's Western Asia, "by the narrow places of the river, and they took the Euphrates right down into the Indian Ocean, down in between Africa, or the land of Ham, properly named. Africa is named after Scipio Africanus, a so-called white man. So they went down in between Madagascar and Africa, and right around the Horn of Africa over into the Americas. All right. Landed in Brazil, landed in the islands, landed in Florida, and from there they filled up the Americas, not from Canada down. They went from south up to north, the opposite. It says, "For the Most High showed them signs and held still the floods till they passed over." So he cleared the way so they can make it. Prophecy had to be fulfilled on this part of the world. The northern kingdom had to come to this part of the world, and then Esau had to follow him here so that he could conquer and fulfill his prophecy of getting the best places on the earth and with the sword. Right? When he got his blessing in Genesis 27 chapter, "By the sword thou shalt live." And when they saw all this gold in the islands, they're still finding gold with Hebrew relics in Puerto Rico. They just found some this year. They found some last year. They're still finding it, proving these people's the so-called Puerto Ricans' connection to ancient Israel, to Western Asia. All right? Hence the reason why Esau Edom changed the name of every damn thing, trying to hide the truth. Okay? It says, for through the country there was a great way to go, namely a year and a half, and the same region is called Asareth. And in the Jewish, you got in Jewish almanacs and Jewish encyclopedias, the rabbis called America Asareth. That is that land. All right. Matter of fact, I'm gonna grab the. Hold on. Let me finish this. It says, then they dwelt there until the latter time, and now when they shall begin to come. So now this is the latter time. So the Northern Kingdom has been here in the Americas, ever since that time. And that's going back about 1800 years. They were separated from Judah. And so the Judites, the Southern Kingdom, fled into Europe. Europe fell. All right. And I mean, well, their rulership in Europe failed. And then the rest of them fled into Africa and ended up settling in all those countries along the Niger River or the Niger River. All right. In Senegal, Benin, Nigeria, all those places. And they got reunited in slavery to their brothers over here. All right. Then so you got doctrines out there that there was never a slave trade, which is a complete and total lie. It's too many records of it. It's too many relics and evidences. All right. The Northern and Southern Kingdom was separated for almost 1700 years and were reunited in slavery. All right. And they brought Judah, the kingdom of Judah, which made up Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, to the Americas, all right, to the islands, and put them in slavery right along with these people. That's why they were in slavery together. When the scripture said, that's why I read the scripture I read in the beginning. All right. Judah and Israel were in oppressed together. All right. Deuteronomy 28th chapter applies to both Judah and Israel. They were taking the people like the chief here and putting them on ships and taking them back to Seville, Spain. Seville, Spain became the reverse slave capital of the world. You can read that in the book, The Black Indians. All right. The book with the cover, the Judite brother looks like Danny Glover, and the Gadite brother or the Reubenite brother looks like Pharrell. Matter of fact, I'm gonna grab those books off the shelf. I think I have them both. Black Indians, got it. And wow, there's so much. Lost Tribes and Promised Lands, I have that. But here, I'm just going to show you these two. This was done through the Spirit, so I like to pull the books up on the screen, and show them to you double with the Black Indians. I said, that's what this book is called, by Lorenz Katz. And in this book, you can see Danny Glover and Pharrell. We laugh about it, but these are the same people. And you have to understand, too, with all the blanqueamiento you have and all that lightening us up, you have families where you have the same mother and father, and you have one son that looks like him, one son looks like him, and then one that looks like a white person, all in the same family with the same mother, father. And that's within Negro families, within Puerto Rican families, within families in South America. How do you explain that? I just did. Okay. But in this book, wow, I have to go back into these books. But these were the images from 400 years ago that was put in the books. These people clearly were not white. They're not red. These were brown complected people. These are Reubenites. These are my people. All right. These are your people. But here, I'm going to find it. He's calling them Columbus' gravest threat to European Western domination in the Western Hemisphere was from communities with former slaves, maroon colonies that were called and considered knife poised at the throat of the slave system. And it was because of these maroon settlements fought against slave drivers and slave owners. All right, just trying to find it. Here it is, I think. Yeah, page 26. All right, I'm just bringing it into the camera from Black Indians. Let me turn it. said, I was in the spirit. I didn't even know I was going to end up bringing this out. This is page 26. You can screenshot it. All right. And it says, Christopher Columbus, page 26, people. Just waiting for the focus. Christopher Columbus, whose unique seamanship and courage opened up the Americas, look at that, to European penetration, also began the transatlantic slave trade. See, it started when he came here. All right. And so the dark people, like the ones on the screen, okay, were part of that. So the natives did go through the slave trade. Okay. Arawak men and women, it says he started by shipping 10 Aramaic men and women to Seville, Spain. He wrote enthusiastically to King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella about business. From here, the name of the Blessed Trinity, and will send all the slaves that can be sold. When he loaded 1,100 Taino men, that will be so-called Puerto Ricans, all right, and women aboard 4 Spanish ships, crowding, and the very stormy Atlantic crossing took a fearful toll. Only 300 survived, but Columbus and Spain had decided to continue the profitable slave trade from the Americas. Seville, Spain became the slave capital of Spain. See, you can't get around this, man. And they don't, and they want to call this critical race theory. It's not fucking theory. This is truth. This is fact. This is what you did. What you did was, matter of fact, the name of this video will probably be critical race issues, genocide, murder, and land theft. And they're not going to like this one at all. In this book, Christopher Columbus and the Portuguese Discoveries, this book was printed in English for the first time in the 1800s by Mayor K. Serling. And it was in most colleges, and they removed it from the colleges. And they want people reading this. But from, Luis de Torres, that was his name. Christopher Columbus, he had 5 Moorish, all right, that looked like this man and spoke spoke different dialects of Hebrew. Cristobal Colon, a.k.a. Christopher Columbus, knew he was going to encounter Hebrew-speaking people. All right? And it really irritates me that our people can't seem to grasp that. They want to hate on the Northern Kingdom and pretend like they're not our people. And guess what? The same thing happened to Negroes, this Blanqui and Minto. All right? The same thing happened on the plantations in the America. All right? The slave owners themselves, they didn't have to bring in European men from Spain and Portugal to do this. The slave owners themselves were humping this old woman when she was young and producing children that looked like her, and then eventually produced children that looked like. Same thing happened to Negroes here in America. You got Negroes that could pass for Hispanic, pass for so-called white. All right. My mother came from a family full of them. Every place I would go with my mom when I was a kid, when I was a teenager, people would walk up to her speaking Spanish. All right. And my mother was not Spanish. All right. But here I got notes written. It's 17 different books. All right. And I could think of that another one that's not, that I wrote notes in this book, but 17 different books that were written over the last 400 years about the natives being Hebrews. I just gave you 2 of them. All right. And it's way more than that. But these are just the ones that I'm aware of. But yeah, let me see if I can bring up this receipt real quick in my phone. Got to go to the evidence folder. Because this one's a banger. I'm just trying to find her. I know I got it in here somewhere. Wow, that's a heavy one too. This is a book. This is a heavy book right here. The heavy image that talks about, all right, the Jews and Moors of Spain and Portugal. Those are the one that came. They came over. Those were your interpreters that came over with Cristobal Colon. Why? Because they looked like the chief here, and they could speak his language. But where is she? Her book right here. This woman that wrote this book. This will be 18 from my notes. But you can see what, some of you may have screenshotted this already. But there it is. The Negroes and the Jews by Lenora E. Burson. And it says Negroes claim to be Jewish is legitimate. They're not Jewish. They're actually Judites, Israelites. The land of Israel is located in Western Asia, just like I said, in the borders of, which is where the chief came from. All right. They didn't come across some land bridge. They came on a ship. All right. They came on ships to the Americas. They knew the way. It's in the Bible. Go to Kings, the 17th chapter. All right. First Kings. But it says, screenshot it. And then I'm going to just screenshot it right now. Now I'm going to pull it back and read it. Okay. It says, when Spain expelled its Jews in 1492, many of them went to Africa. It seems probable that some of them were brought later to America as slaves. All right. The spirituals never sing of African rivers. It's always of the Jordan or the Red Sea. They did not sing about African chiefs or kings. It's David or Moses or other Jews characters from the Bible. And she's absolutely right. Absolutely correct. All right. Esau, Edom has been made bare. He's exposed. Okay. Now I'm going to play a couple short videos just to add insult to the injury, more truth to their lies. So here we go.
There is no short way to tell you what I am about to tell you, to show you with the evidence that I have, to be an ethical content creator in a time where I think every American should see this speech from our Vice President, J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance is a dangerous man with dangerous connections, and he sits in a position of power that is one heartbeat away from becoming the President of the United States. On July 5th, 2025, Vice President J.D. Vance was given a statesmanship award from an organization called the Claremont Institute. Let me read the mission statement for you because I don't have a lot of time to talk about this institute itself. The mission of the Claremont Institute is to restore the principles of the American founding to their rightful, preeminent authority in our national life.
The thieves.
White, straight, land-owning, property-owning men. That's who America's founding fathers were. You can watch this speech from start to finish on YouTube and obviously on the Claremont Institute website as well. I encourage you to do so, but let's talk about some of the most concerning parts of that speech. And for reference, because I'm not going to show you the whole thing, J.D. Vance is talking about what he envisions for America's future, and he mentions that this vision is for the next several years.
If you think about it, identifying America just with agreeing with the principles, let's say, of the Declaration of Independence, that's a definition that is way over-inclusive and under-inclusive at the same time. What do I mean by that? Well, first of all, it would include hundreds of millions, maybe billions of foreign citizens who agree with the principles of the Declaration of Independence. Must we admit all of them tomorrow? If you follow that logic of America as a purely creedal nation, America purely as an idea, that is where it would lead you.
You just heard the Vice President of the United States of America denounce the Declaration of Independence. This is a PDF of that declaration, and what they're talking about this is a long list of things that King George would not allow or was failing at when they declared their independence. He has endeavored to prevent the population of these states, for that purpose obstructing the laws for naturalization of foreigners, refusing to pass others to encourage their migrations hither, and raising the conditions of new appropriations of land. That declaration...
All you have to do is go and read Ben Franklin's letter from 1751 and go to the 24th paragraph. What he's talking about is not including people of color, because people of color, the chief, which is a Native American here, and the Negro slaves, that's why they combined them as the same people in 1682. Let's show the receipt. In 1682, they were considered one people because they were one people. See if I can find that receipt real quick. That was an act that was done in 1682 here in Virginia. They were labeled one people. Just trying to find that receipt real quick. So bear with me. But these people, here we go. Providing a receipt. Screenshot it if you don't have it. Virginia passed 2 acts in 1682, combined Native and Africans into one category as Negroes. There it is. So hence the reason why the debate, you know, we're trying to say that they're trying to deny the offspring of their people that are lighter complected, the natives that they call the natives today, and then also trying to disconnect them from the ones who came from West Africa. You see? And so this was all through the wickedness of Esau, Edom. And let me put her, Lenore's back up in case anyone missed it and wants to screenshot it. Here's a better shot of it, of the whole thing. These important little nuggets to have when you debating or teaching. You're not debating, but we don't debate. We dictate the truth because we're the only ones that have it. All right. So basically what Ben Franklin was saying, this was the same thing that J.D. Vance was saying. These laws weren't meant for you so-called black folk, for you so-called native folk. These were meant for white folk, which they, in 1681, they created that in Virginia as well. There was no such thing as white people until then. So these new laws and things that were rights that were being created will be created for them so that they could propagate the theft of this land. All right. Let's bring back this oldie. Damn it.
Is teaching white Americans how white slave owners raped, beat, humiliated, mutilated, murdered, and cannibalized their slaves.
Yep, they ate us.
Accurate history is teaching that George Washington's false teeth were made out of his slaves' teeth. Accurate history is teaching that Abraham Lincoln may have said some words and signed some shit, but he did not physically do anything to free the slaves. The white abolitionists also often get almost total credit for freeing the slaves. I bet you've never even asked yourself what the slaves were doing to free themselves, and the answer to that is most of the fucking work, including giving the ultimatum of war. But then we get a bunch of white people mad that their kids might feel guilty if we teach real history. It's not about your white child's feelings. Teaching accurate history isn't about white people's feelings, but that does sound like something that someone who's only ever been taught a white glorifying version of history would counter with. Ask why we ever felt like we needed to curate a false version of what white people did and did not do to black people to begin with. And then ask yourself why white-ass politicians are verbally attacking real history by calling it slurs, which is, by default, also the act of calling black people slurs.
CTR, all right? They call real history critical race theory and to try to discredit the truth. All right, so let's play this one last video, and we'll wrap it up. God damn it.
Declared us a nation. It is like a birth certificate. And our vice president is denouncing it, is saying that we're misinterpreting it. Unless you are an indigenous person, 100%, all of your genes come from that line. You are part of that immigration process. And I will take the time to recognize that, yes, we stole this land and we slaughtered the indigenous people that lived here. That part of history is not lost on me. I need to show you this next part as well.
The modern left seems dedicated to doing this, to saying you don't belong in America unless you agree with progressive liberalism in 2025. I think the people whose ancestors fought in the Civil War have a hell of a lot more claim over America than the people who say they don't belong.
J.D. Vance is talking about white bloodlines. Listen again.
I think the people whose ancestors fought in the Civil War have a hell of a lot more claim over America than the people who say they don't belong.
All right, so let's stop right there.
This.
All right, let's stop right there. Let's go to a couple scriptures, man. All right. This is Micah 2:1. It says, "Woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it because it's in the power of their hand. They covet fields and take them by violence, and houses and take them away. So they oppress a man in his house, even a man in his heritage. Therefore, thus saith Yahweh power, behold, against this family, Salakia, behold, against this family do I devise an evil, from which ye shall not remove your necks, neither shall ye go haughtily, for the time is evil." Esau, Edom, is getting ready to pay for the wickedness, for the evil that he has done, for the rape, robbery, murder, genocide, and land theft that he has done. And now you have a president who was openly telling you Trump and his gang was super prejudiced and racial, and they're saying it boldly in speeches that none of these. Why you think they're taking away your rights and just arresting people and not giving them due process, et cetera, et cetera? Why you think they let go? The distraction with Diddy, and then the letting go of everyone that was involved with Epstein. Okay, so the time is up. They're exposed, they're shamed, and the destruction is coming unto them for the crimes that they have done. All right. So with that, I want to give all praises, all honor, and glory unto Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai Bahasham, Rakah Hakwadash Kwam Yasharala Abad Babal.